It is 4:30. I'm calling the meeting to order and acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates within the territory of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation, DELEGATIONS Tla-o-qui-aht Notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel. Notice to virtual attendees to sign up for public comment and question period using the Q&A function in Zoom. Registered participants are required to enter their full name, residential address, and the agenda item they wish to speak to. Through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that pursuant to section 15 of the District of Tofino Meeting Procedure Bylaw number 1229/2016 as amended, the February 2024 regular council meeting be held electronically via Zoom and live broadcasted on the District of Tofino's YouTube channel, and that the facility provided for the public to watch and hear the meeting be located at Municipal Hall 380 Campbell Street in Tofino, BC. Seeing no objection, that motion is carried. I do have an amendment for the adoption. Move that we amend 10.1 to remove and adoption. So that 10.1 should read zoning bylaw amendment, affordable residential 1 comprehensive development zone AR1, first, second, and third readings. Seconded, all in favor? All right, and through the chair, if there are no objections, I'll move that the February 2024 regular council agenda be adopted as amended. Seeing no objection, that motion is carried. Also, through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that items 4.1 to 4.2 of the consent agenda on the regular council meeting held February 20th, 2024 be approved and received. Seeing no objection, that motion is carried. Public comment on agenda items, Mr. Shortall.
Thanks, Mayor Lowe. We do have attendees online via Zoom, so I will do a call now. If you'd like to make a change to council, you can do so by raising your hand via Zoom. You need to state your name and your address and the agenda item you're speaking to. So calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times, and no comments at this point, Mayor Lowe.
Thank you. And nothing to report on the mayor's report. Correspondence. We have correspondence from Redfish Restoration, a letter requesting a letter of support. That is for Redfish Restoration Society Stewardship Center. Comments from council. I do have a possible draft motion to support. Comments from council. Nope, this is great. I think it's super happy to support Redfish Restoration Society. And just a notice to those watching, the difference between a society, a charity in this case, and a business, because this has we do get requests from businesses for support, which we cannot oblige, but this one we certainly can. There are no further ado, I can move that staff be authorized to draft a letter of support regarding Redfish Restoration's new Restoration Stewardship Center project. Second. Second by Councillor Steer. All in favor? Lovely, thank you. On to 9.2, correspondence from Federation of Canadian Municipalities Annual Conference and Trade Show. And I particularly would like to go. Comments from council. Anybody else like to go? No. Well, then I do have a notice of motion that would allow me to go. I can read it from the chair that Mayor Law be authorized to attend the 2024 Federation of Canadian Municipalities Annual Conference and Trade Show. Second. Second by Councillor McMaster. Any further comments? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. I look forward to it. We're great. It's a great time. We have presentations reports. We have 10.1 zoning amendment bylaw. This is for first, second, and third readings. We have a report from Community Service, Mr. Later.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You're gonna allow me to catch my breath a little bit. Forgot my notebook across the way, so I just had to hustle. So my apologies if I seem out of breath. Yeah, so the purpose of this presentation is to introduce bylaw 1334 and request that first, second, and third readings are granted. So this is a bylaw to amend the text of. So this is a bylaw to amend the text of the Affordable Residential 1 Comprehensive Development Zone, also known as the AR1, to allow for home occupations as a permitted accessory use. The application received permission to proceed at the January 23rd regular council meeting, where council also decided not to hold a public hearing in line with LGA requirements. Since permission to proceed, staff conducted additional review, distributed public notices, and completed a referral process. So this is the location of the property. You might be familiar from the last permission to proceed presentation. On the left is the boundary of the AR1 zone relative to the rest of the downtown area. And on the right is a zoom in of the zone. You can see the 5 existing lots, and the zone is the location of the headwaters apartment buildings, and lots 1 and 2 are highlighted accordingly. So as mentioned, the intent of the amendment is to add home occupation use permissions in the AR1 zone, excluding short-term rentals and bed and breakfasts. Now, the motivation behind the application is largely driven by the anticipated completion of the 2 headwaters buildings in March and May, as far as we know at this point, to avoid potential move-in delays for occupants who may be self-employed. The amendment would align the AR1 zone permissions with the headwaters housing agreement, which allows residents to be self-employed and would better reflect home occupation permissions elsewhere in the district, including for multifamily dwellings. When looking at district policy, we do see general alignment with the Vision to Action Plan and the OCP. In particular, the Vision to Action contains language that is supportive of small business ventures, and the OCP explicitly supports home-based businesses that do not negatively impact the character of residential neighborhoods. Now, though there's little explicit reference to home occupations in other district policy documents, enabling home occupations may contribute to less reliance on private vehicle transportation and align with goals within the OCP and multimodal transportation plan that support a shift towards alternative modes of transportation. So here we'll take a closer look at the relevant aspects of the existing zoning bylaw. At the top here, I've included a definition of home occupations just so we're sort of clear on the terminology. Home occupations means any home craft, professional practice, or other means of livelihood which is carried on within a dwelling unit by a permanent resident of the dwelling unit and excludes cannabis retail and cannabis production. So while this definition can be broadly interpreted, home occupations are further regulated by general use permissions of the zoning bylaw, which controls the type of home occupation that can be located within each dwelling type, the maximum area they can take up within a principal dwelling, which in this case is no more than 40%, the maximum number of home occupations per dwelling unit. In the case of multifamily buildings, it's 2. It controls for parking and other matters related to nuisance. So when it comes to parking, the zoning bylaw requires the provision of on-street parking as necessary for the operation of the business. And this requirement would be assessed on a case-by-case basis at the time of application for a business license. As only office-based home occupations would be permitted in multifamily dwellings, which would likely not generate client visitation, it's anticipated that this amendment would have no impact on the required on-site parking for the headwaters buildings. So here's probably a familiar table to you, which is contained in section 432H of the zoning bylaw. And this is the table that regulates the type of home occupations that can occur within each residential structure type. And the highlighted section shows the uses permitted within multifamily structures, which is most relevant to the headwaters developments. And this limits home occupations to, quote, the office of an accountant, architect, clergy, engineer, lawyer, physician, draftsperson, graphic designer, writer, computer technologist, photographer, or other professional person. Go to the next one. So here I wanted to address a question raised during the permission to proceed meeting about whether a tenant could use a bedroom in a multi-room unit as an office. And if so, whether this is the best use of the space or whether it could lead to a situation where a unit is under occupied. So staff reviewed regulations under the zoning bylaw, stipulations within the Headwaters housing agreement, and reviewed planning best practices. And essentially the short answer is there's nothing preventing a tenant from using an extra bedroom as a home office, though staff are not aware of evidence suggesting that this would lead to a situation where available bedrooms are underutilized. So the THC's housing agreement sets specific qualifications tenants need to meet, including income thresholds, employment requirements, and time lived in Tofino. And additionally, the application process sets out clear limitations on the unit size that applicants can be eligible for based on the number of persons per household, which is shown in the table on the slide. So even without home occupation permissions right now, there are potential scenarios where not all bedrooms are utilized by qualified households because tenants may choose to share a bedroom. You can go back to the. So staff are of the opinion that meeting the existing tenant qualifications and unit size eligibility requirements should be sufficient in ensuring unit sizes are being allocated most appropriately. And then I wanted to point out that there may also be positive health impacts to enabling home occupations. During our referrals process, we did get communication from Island Health, which suggested that there is evidence when people work where they live and they are more socially connected with their community, have lower levels of stress, lower reliance on personal vehicles, and are more likely to be physically active. So as I alluded to, we did a referral process to internal departments and external agencies. There were no concerns and no interests were affected. And as I pointed out, the only substantive comment that we received was from Island Health, who communicated support and noted the possible positive health impacts related to home occupations. You can go to next. And lastly, just a public engagement on the application was limited to notification requirements in line with the Local Government Act and included notices published in the February 7th and 14th editions of the Westerly newspaper and mailouts to landowners and residents within 60 meters of the subject property. Physical signage was also posted on the property. I did receive 2 inquiries by members of the public who were seeking clarification on the scope and intent of the application, but no concerns were raised. And this brings me to the recommendation, which is the zoning bylaw amendment to be introduced and read at first.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Lader. I'm going to look to council for questions for clarity for Mr. Lader before we go into comments, if there are any. I see no question. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, and I wouldn't want to hinder the speed of this at all, but why you can't do home crafts or hobbies?
Thank you for the question. It's an interesting question, and unfortunately, I wasn't around when the original zone requirements were drafted. I will know just, I mean, my opinion and observation is that the use permissions are quite specific and quite restrictive by listing out specific occupations and professions, which I think probably isn't the most flexible way to design a bylaw. So I can't really, I don't know why it's explicitly noted that way, but maybe in the future it's something that could be addressed.
Thank you.
Any other questions for clarity from Mr. Later? Seeing none, any comments for council before we read this motion? Pretty okay? All right, well then, would somebody like to read the motion?
I'll move that the zoning bylaw amendment, affordable residential, one comprehensive development zone AR1, first, second, third readings.
Seconder. Second. Councilor Master, any further comments from council? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Leader. Okay, moving on to 10.2, we have Long Beach Chamber of Commerce fee for service agreement, and I believe we have a report from Mr. McCall.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening, I have a brief presentation about the Tofino Long Beach Chamber of Commerce fee for service agreement. A little bit of background here. Since 2002, District of Tofino has provided $20,000 per year to Tofino Long Beach Chamber of Commerce. And section 8.2 of the community charter gives council the authority to do this. This is similar to other commissions, for example, a recreation commission, a library, community services, etc. And the current fee for service agreement expired in December 31st of 2023. So we're looking to renew. In this agreement, the chamber provides multiple services to the community and the business community in particular, including workshops, guest lectures, and networking events. It also supports programs to promote locally made products here in Tofino and services. It also conducts 2 business roundtables per year to inform council and staff. And they also conduct an annual membership survey to ensure services remain relevant. In addition to participating in applicable annual, regional, and local business conferences. So a lot of value here to the community, and noting that staff also recognizes that these agreements can offer value, yet due to the constraints of a municipal budget, they are carefully considered at each review period. In addition to that, there is a new executive director at the Chamber of Commerce that staff is excited to work together with. Due to this new executive director, staff are recommending the limit of the contract to reduce to 2 years so that that new staff member is able to enter the position and review the agreement and the community needs before bringing it back to council at the end of that 2 years. And with that, we have a recommendation for council.
Excellent, thank you very much. We're going to open up for questions for clarity from Mr. McCall, if there are any. Good council, once, twice, thrice. I'm going to open it up for comments from council. Chat to each other if you like, or not. Seeing none. Okay, go ahead, councilors.
I just have one comment. I agree with the motion, but as we move forward, when the District of Tofino contracted these services, there was a different strategic plan of council with more emphasis on economic development, and the work that the chamber did meshed better with council goals and district goals at that time. And as we move forward and they reassess the service and we reassess how we would like to see that service delivered, and maybe focus on different areas of it. I hope that we can work with the chamber moving forward with a new vision.
Excellent. Yeah. Great. We'll see how, new executive director, I'm sure that's going to change things up again. So the previous one was excellent, and I really look forward to the meeting. If there are no other comments from council, then would somebody like to read the motion? Go ahead.
I move that staff be authorized to enter into a fee for service agreement between the District of Tofino and the Tofino Long Beach Chamber of Commerce for a 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2025.
Second, Mr. Thomas, any final comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. All right, now we have a list of bylaws for adoption. And I do believe we have no presentations for each of those. They should have all been, they're all, of course, in the agenda package. So what we'll do is we'll go through each one. If there are no significant objections, we're going to go right ahead and read the motions. Sounds good. Councillor Steer.
I'll get going then. District of Tofino Growing Communities Fund Reserve Bylaw number 1339 2024. District of Tofino be adopted.
Councillor Thomas, it's a race for seconding. Any comments on this one? Further comments from council? Can't see none. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
And that the District of Tofino Pay Parking Reserve Bylaw number 1340 2024 be adopted.
Second. Seconded by Councillor Anderson. Any further comments from council? Seeing none. All in favor? None opposed. Motion's carried.
And that the District of Tofino Recreation Facilities Reserve Fund Bylaw number 1341 2024 be adopted.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor McMaster. Any further comments from council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed. Motion's carried.
And that the District of Tofino Sewer Working Capital Reserve Fund Bylaw number 1342 2024 be adopted.
Second.
Thomas, any further comments from council? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed. Motion's carried.
Finally, that the District of Tofino Water Working Capital Reserve Fund Bylaw number 1343 2024 be adopted.
Second.
Oh, that was a tie. Oh, Councillor Thomas. Any further comments from council? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed. Motion is carried. Thank you. Excellent. Great stuff. Okay, business initiated by council members. Do we have any? Business initiated by council members? Yes, go ahead.
Well, Councillor McMaster and Councillor Anderson and I went to the UBC Housing Summit virtually. And I know I was a little bit hesitant of whether virtually would be as significant as attending in person, and I did feel like it was a good summit. And I think you all received a newsletter about what happened at that meeting or at the summit.
Yeah, would love to hear it. Any highlights for, let's go around highlights from each of you.
Well, for me, I thought like a highlight that I really took away from it was just understanding how immigration plays into our responsibility to meet the housing demand, and then how it trickles down from like the federal government sites that, and then the provincial is now like introduced Bill 44 and 47, which has taken away some of our say, and so then we have to accommodate that. To me, I just find that kind of interesting.
That's great. Thanks. Love to hear.
Yeah, most of the conversation, I believe, is around Bill 44. Is how everybody was going to build all these homes, houses with the shortage of labour, and even if they did get built, how they would pay for the infrastructure that was going to be needed. And it was certainly big city problems, which will probably filter down to us eventually. But you can see the complexity in a big city putting in the infrastructure. So that was, I enjoyed the fact it was on Zoom. I didn't think it was as good as the previous meeting because, you know, previous year, I think we were more in the government was all over the place with what it was going to do. So I think there was a lot more discussion of what the people wanted the government to do. And now the government's laid out its plans. Everybody was just wondering how the hell they're going to do them.
And for me, two things come to mind. One is the discussion around, as Councillor McMaster pointed out, around all the new provincial initiatives. The discussion focused around infrastructure demands, capacity to deliver, both on the laboring side of construction, but also in-house planning departments, and how whatever how they could adapt to the the mandate in the sense that the government has put forward challenges there. And yeah, so that was among conference attendees, that the focus was around infrastructure capacity and funding. Some communities felt like the funding provided to help meet some of those capacity issues fell short. Yeah, and then the other thing that sort of stood out to me was the federal minister on housing speaking to a little bit to how the federal grants are issued, and I guess it comes as no surprise, but the more coordinated that they can move forward on grant funding in association with other federal grants and sort of accomplish several goals, maybe even cross departmentally or whatever. And also how well communities' goals line up with federal goals makes a difference, which is no surprise. But a little bit of insight that maybe we don't hear about enough about how federally that they don't just work in silos. They work in consideration of other federal grant streams. For instance, when they do fund housing, they may be more inclined to fund a community center or something like that in association. So it's a couple of takeaways from
I just had a couple of other things to add that I thought were really interesting was, one, just to put some numbers to it, is BC's population is growing at 3%, and we're currently building at 2%, so we have a deficit of 1%. And then we're also losing housing stock due to different factors. Some of it is like the inequity in the rental tenancy agreement, and so there's a bit of discussion around that, and how that, I just thought it was interesting how we sell immigration as like, oh, come to Canada, the grass is so green, but we're actually setting people up to be homeless. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And then the other thing about that is most of the people are 80% of the population increasing in BC is in the lower mainland and eastern Vancouver Island. And I just thought that was pretty interesting.
Super. That's great. I love the update. Thank you. It's great. It's great.
So just one last comment about attending a conference by Zoom. I think it's getting a lot better, that sort of connection in terms of how you can participate in a conference remotely, and especially for a short conference that was like about a day and a half, maybe, but it would have been a lot of traveling expenses for a really short conference.
Yeah. I have a question for, did the three of you attend separately, or did you come together to attend any meetings?
Separately. Yeah. Although I missed the session on short-term rentals because I think at town hall.
We had our own session. Okay, well, that's great. That's lovely. I just love the updates, and I think we'll continue to do that. So yes, Councilman.
Sorry, this is an update from a couple weeks ago at the Vancouver Island Regional Library AGM. We got a really nice presentation on the new electronic resources available at the library. So through a mix of online borrowing and apps, there's a lot of, like, there's sheet music, there's books, you can stream music, you can research projects. So there's been some really, really big work done to make the library's catalog available online for people who are not able to physically access the libraries. And it's really exciting. There's lots of information on the website for that. And at the AGM, I was also I'm now on the executive committee.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Oh, super
So,
excited about that.
yeah.
Great. So I got a question for you, Councillor. Sorry, so you can go online and sort of borrow music through the library app.
yes, it is an app, I believe, separate from the library's own app, but there's different formats. From what I heard, you can either stream music for free for up to like 4 hours a day. And I believe there's a set number of songs that you're able to download and have on your device as well. So for people who might not have Wi-Fi at home, they could, go to the library, download some music, and then be able to listen to those songs at home.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Anybody else?
Just a quick plug there. The BC Seniors Advocate is going to be coming to Tofino, Isabel McKenzie. She's going to be discussing seniors issues in the communities, and that's on Wednesday, February 28th between 3 and 4:30. Fortunately, I'll be at an ACRD meeting in Port Alberni. I think it'd be highly valuable for someone to be able to attend from council if they could. She's going to be discussing seniors issues in communities, focusing on rural communities. And she'll be getting some updates on her upcoming, some insights into her upcoming reports that'll be coming forward. So I think it'd be an extremely valuable opportunity for us to attend. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there. So I throw that open. I don't know, maybe an email or something to around that.
Yeah, so if there's any councillor who'd be interested in attending that in Councillor Steer's absence, it'd be great. Just take that offline.
Great. Yeah.
And great. I do have I was on the West Coast Transportation Working Group, ACRD. We did, the working group did get a letter back from from the Ministry of Transportation that they'll be working primarily on assessing an emergency route at this time. So that's where their focus is going to be on. However, the West Coast Transportation Working Group will continue to work on assessing and lobbying for a permanent secondary route. So that's in process. All right, moving on. There are no other businesses initiated by council members.
I could, since we have a little bit extra time today, give a little quick update on Public Art Advisory Committee.
Love it.
We are currently adjudicating 3 different projects. Our funding has sort of built up over the past few years. So we'll look at do some catch up and look at 3 different projects with the funding that's come forward from, I think, 21, 22, and 23. And we're looking at artist designed sign for the community hall. We're finalizing that, and we'll be working on 2 sidewalk crossings with artistic work, with the some community consultation on a rainbow sidewalk and a reconciliation residential school recognition sidewalk crossing. And the work of the committee so far has favored the locations on First Street, furthest north, I guess, between the hardware and the fisheries buildings, and between the post office and Driftwood gift shop. So they would sort of have a bit of a flow and a continuity up that street.
Excellent. Excellent. It's one of my favorite committees
The
ever.
call to artists has yet to go out on it, so.
Okay. Public Art Advisory Committee is my favorite. I gotta say, it's my favorite committee I've ever been on. It was so excellent. Miss Vermont. Wish I was still on it, but I'm not. Okay, let's go on then. Do we have anybody signed up for question period, Mr. Torgo?
We don't have anyone signed up, but we do have some attendees online, so I will make a call to the public. If anyone would like to ask a question from council, you can do so now by raising your hand via the raise hand function on Zoom. You need to state your name, your address, and the agenda item you're speaking to, and I will call 3 times. So calling once, Calling twice. Calling 3 times and no questions at this point, Mayor Law.
Super, thank you. Then we'll move right into closed session. Do we have a volunteer from council to read the recommendation?
I move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91A CIKL of the Community Charter to discuss matters relating to a personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is considered for position as an officer, employee, or agent in the municipality or another position protected by the municipality. C, labor relations or other employee relations. I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. L, discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purposes of preparing a report under section 98 annual municipal report.
Seconded. Councilor Steer, seconded. Any further comments from council? All in favor? None opposed. We're going into closed session, so we'll take a look.